And as I was greatly introduced by uh, the young miss over here, Amen. Thank you so much. And hopefully, I am of some help to everybody regarding this. So I'm currently working with the Boston Bar Association here as a legal aid in the US. I'm based here right now, and I did my bachelor's in the UK. Before that, I was working with a fintech company, and I've worked with a few law firms, and then I've worked in the UK for some time as well. Yeah, and currently I'm doing a double master's. One is in banking and finance law, and the other one is in tech law. And I'm also working with a digital chamber firm in DC here. And yeah, let's get to it. So I think the first day I want to like focus on the digital law frameworks in Pakistan, and let me know if you guys can hear me properly. And I'll go a bit slow because I know I speak a little bit faster. But yeah, so the first day I want to focus on is the digital law frameworks in Pakistan, and these and mostly I compare it with like frameworks all over the globe as well, like especially जो हमारी markets हैं in the US and the UK and EU as well. I would just start by saying that digital law, when I was in my law school, digital law was just an emerging market. I remember learning about this fintech bank called Revolut that just came in the market. And that's when I realized then my interest for digital law and tech law actually grew a lot. And just a disclaimer before I start. Digital law and tech law, they go hand in hand, of course. But cybersecurity law and digital law don't necessarily go hand in hand. They come under the same ambit and the same umbrella, but cybersecurity, we will cover that in day 2. But digital law is something that covers and is trying to cover most of our digital and tech works right now in regards to, fintech and banking regulations and stuff like that in Pakistan and all over the world. So let's move on. First, I would like to say, okay, so digital law in Pakistan encompasses the legal rules and principles that regulate the use of technology, digital platforms, and electronic data. And it operates at the intersection of constitutional guarantees and statutory law and practice, addressing how personal and institution data is like collected and processed, secured, and governed. So digital law basically is, I would rather say it's like an amalgamation of different regulations and rules from electronic platforms, as I said, and electronic data. And it comes at the intersection of like when you mix up your digital like startups or digital platforms and regulation, that's when digital law is like born, and I would say that as digital systems increasingly mediate social, economic, and governmental interactions, digital law plays a critical role in ensuring accountability, safeguarding fundamental rights, and maintaining public trust in tech innovation. So let's move on to why digital law matters today. And I'm going to start with a comparison in Pakistan and global markets as well. So in contemporary Pakistan, tech has become embedded in everyday life, as we all know, shaping how individuals access banking services, conduct commercial transactions, communicate, and engage with the state, while the expansion of mobile banking, digital wallets, biometric identity systems, and online platforms has occurred at a pace of exceeding the development of corresponding legal protections. So the imbalance has heightened the vulnerabilities to data exploitation, cybercrime, and privacy, making digital law essential to protecting citizens and securing institutions and sustaining economic growth. So digital law matters today, if like somebody asks me this question as a young lawyer, I would say that digital law is something that needs to be in place to like basically protect the ever growing digital market right now, especially with the current rise to cryptocurrency, such as bitcoins, as you all may have known if somebody's interested in crypto. Um, and especially in the banking world, which is becoming digitized now. I think it's a revolution of the 21st century. um, Moreover, it's now becoming a part of our daily lives, as I'm sure that you all may use ChatGPT a lot. We use the internet every day. It's a part of our lives. So we need digital laws to actually, you know, make sure that we have a society that functions in a proper way. Um, and that that is the reason why, we need some kind of digital laws to make that happen, to make sure that it's like regulated properly, and like nobody's hurt during the whole process. um okay, let's move on. So what is digital law? So, digital law refers to the body of legal norms that regulate digital activity, including data collection and like processing, online conduct, cybersecurity responsibility, and of course, the most used are electronic transactions. And if you talk about Pakistan, right? So, in Pakistan, digital laws do not necessarily exist as a single unit or like a single unified code, but rather it spans over like multiple legal domains, including constitutional law, criminal law, and in criminal law, as I mentioned before, cybersecurity comes in criminal law, um, commercial regulation, and administrative governance. It's basically fragmented. It's like fragmented nature. Basically, like reflects the complexity of the regulating technology, while also highlighting the need for a coherent legal reform. So, just to make it a bit more brief and in simpler words, I would say digital law basically, first of all, is a body of legal norms, right, that regulates digital activities like data collection and cybersecurity and electronic transactions, just to name a few. And in Pakistan, digital law does not exist as a single entity, but rather in different forms of different legal domains. As I mentioned, for instance, there are some legal protections in our constitutional law, there is some legal protection in criminal law in regards to cybersecurity. And there isn't one legal domain that would rather take over and look over all the legal laws in Pakistan, which is something that I feel like is a gray area, and we do need to fix that, hopefully. But it's an emerging gap. If I compare that to the US or to the UK, of course, that's much more of a developed market than Pakistan. Um, the US, again, although it's a developed market, they still don't have a unified, coherent legal reform or a legal regulation that looks after digital laws in a particular way. So it kind of gives the developing countries a cushion, like Pakistan, in the ever growing digital market, that, we still have time to work on a single unified digital law that like looks over all electronic and digital transactions, and cybersecurity issues, and also data collection. So yeah, so I feel like no other country in the world right now has a single unified coherent system. Maybe the EU. I'm really not well versed in that market, but Pakistan for sure is a market that's still developing in that area. We do have some digital laws, but again, as I mentioned, it's in different legal domains, not a single entity. Moving on. So Pakistan's digital reality. So Pakistan's digital ecosystem basically, so it includes the fintech services, mobile payment platforms, which are widely used, e-commerce marketplaces, biometric identity systems such as Nadra, and extensive government and private databases. So, Pakistan digital system, as you may know, that the ecosystem is coherently like it's based on our fintech services, our mobile payment platforms, which I feel like in the past few years have emerged more and more now. Um, Please do tell me if I'm going too fast. Okay, thank you so much for that. Yeah, so our ecosystem is kind of based on these services. Fintech services like Just Cash, Easy Pesa, which are super popular in Pakistan, and Naya Pay, and I don't even know there are like so many more in upcoming. Our Nadra department has like gone completely. I mean, they're trying to go like super digitized, which is a good thing. We have a lot of e-commerce marketplaces that people use a lot in Pakistan, for which these international companies, for instance, if they hire, or they outsource labor from Pakistan, it's usually through these e-commerce marketplaces. So Pakistan's digital ecosystem is actually quite vast, and which is a good thing because we are a growing market, just like hopefully if we compare it with the US or even India, which is another very big growing market in terms of digital reality. Moreover, these systems have improved efficiency and access to like different services, particularly for previously underdeserved populations. However, they also expose significant weaknesses, including the limited cybersecurity capacity and the inconsistent regulatory oversight and low public awareness of digital rights, all of which increase risk in the misuse and systematic harm, right? So, um, just to like simplify, right? Although Pakistan's digital system is quite diverse in terms of the fintech services and like mobile payments and e-commerce marketplaces, but at the same time, I feel like every other legal system, Pakistan's reality is that it's very hard to comply to basically like look over these systems in terms of their cons and their weaknesses, as the rise of cybersecurity, there is inconsistent regulatory oversight, and also low public awareness in terms of digital rights and the misuse of the system, which is very, very widely misused in Pakistan as well, because people don't understand the repercussions of misusing our digital system a lot. So I feel like Pakistan needs more and more awareness in terms of how can we benefit from these digital systems, and how we can educate our like local public and people who have access to these systems, how we can educate them in terms of like using it safely. Okay, moving on. Understanding data in the digital age. So again, I am no data expert, right? But I feel like it's very important if anybody wants to go into this area of law, is to understand data at a certain level. Data in the digital age extends far beyond basic identification information. It includes financial records, biometric identifiers, location data, and online behavioral patterns. And in Pakistan's growing digital economy, such data is routinely collected by banks, by telecom companies, and government bodies and online platforms. As we all should be very aware of that, I feel like a lot of people, and I wouldn't count the younger generation actually in like Pakistan nowadays, but people from like, I'd say the word would be like people in their 40s, 50s. I don't think they have, again, I don't feel like they have a proper idea of how data is actually being collected by all these giant companies and how it's used and sold in dark market and in digital market, which we all somehow consent to without knowing. Um, People don't realize that that data that we consent to being sold is actually worth a lot for these companies. Of advertisement in terms of so in terms of like knowing a person, knowing like a particular customer, I feel like it's very important for every individual, especially in Pakistan as well, to understand how your personal data is so important, is your right to is actually your right, and it shouldn't be just sold into the market without your consent. Consent in terms of data is so important, especially for banks and telecom companies, which continuously misuse that because they bank on the fact that our local public does not have this basic awareness how important our data is, and that we do have the right for consent and we can say no to that, but they abuse the system just on the fact that we do not have this idea that how important consent is in terms of personal data, and they use it online freely by selling it in companies. Yeah, so personal identification I feel like is very important, and data is something that is a core part of the digital age and understanding digital platforms for understanding digital platforms. While data enables innovation and efficiency, inadequate regulation and safeguards can transform it into a tool for surveillance, for discrimination, financial fraud, again, a huge part of it, and exploitation. So data can also be used, again, it's to put in like simple words, can be used for exploitation, financial fraud, and surveillance. That's why I was emphasizing on the fact that understanding data is so important, especially like the personal data that each and every one of us have on especially on like online, like platforms like ChatGPT or Google. When we accept cookies or when we consent to something, we're actually consenting for our data to be transferred or to be sent to these companies who can use it for surveillance, who can use it for discrimination, who can also use it for financial fraud, which is actually getting us smarter and smarter every day with now, the current rise of artificial intelligence. That data can be used to make, phishing calls or like scam calls, to your people, and people don't understand that it's so important to understand and have a basic understanding of data and how it actually operates. Moving on. Sorry. Data protection. So what is data protection law? Data protection law basically governs how personal data is collected and processed, stored, and shared by both public and private entities, as I mentioned before. Its core objective is to ensure that data is processing in a lawful, transparent, and very proportionate way, while also protecting the individuals from unauthorized access, disclosure, or misuse of their personal information, like your passwords, for instance, in Pakistan, we have our ID. So our CNIC number, our passport number, our pictures, our date of birth, that is personal information. And that is what is like basically covered in data protection law. And it basically ensures that these kind of personal information is not misused. And effective data protection frameworks basically impose obligations on organizations and provide individuals with enforceable rights over their data. So the need of effective data protection frameworks is very, very crucial in terms of like imposing obligations on organizations, as I mentioned, and companies who provide some kind of an so we can enforce our data protection rights as consumers and say, no, you know what? We don't want to consent to send our data to you. We don't want to consent sending our data to these big companies who then sell it and profit on it. So data protection law basically protects that area of of every individual, and the imposing and effective imposing of it is very important and very crucial in terms of digital law and data protection law, especially in countries like Pakistan. Um, and data protection frameworks in Pakistan, now moving on to that, Pakistan currently lacks a fully implemented and enforceable data protection statute. Although the personal data protection bill has been proposed, right? Um, has been proposed, and uncertainty remains in basically in regards to its scope, its enforcement, and mechanisms of institutional oversight, which is unfortunately the case in regards to data protection framework. It is in the works with the data protection bill passed, but there's still a lot of uncertainty in regards to the enforcement of it and mechanism and the institutional oversight. But as a result, individuals often lack meaningful remedies when their data is misused, as I mentioned before in the previous slide, and organizations operate without a clear binding standards, creating legal uncertainty and increasing systematic risks. So the problem with that is that which Pakistan currently lacks a proper, data framework, is that our data can be misused without any legal protection to it. And as a Pakistani individual, you cannot actually fight for your right to consent for certain data and consent for it to not be sold or used by other companies. Moving on, what is privacy law? So privacy law protects an individual's right to dignity, autonomy, and control over personal information. It seeks to limit unjustified intrusion into personal life, including surveillance, monitoring, and misuse of communications. In a digital environment, right, where data collection is constant and often invisible, privacy law serves as a critical safeguard against overreach by both state and authorities and private actors, which are like third parties. So privacy law basically protects an individual from um, so privacy law basically protects an individual from data protection as well. So it can come under that as well, because it basically says that an individual has full autonomy over their personal information. Moving on, privacy rights under the Pakistani law. So the Constitution of Pakistan guarantees the dignity of a man and the privacy of home under Article 14, a provision of that courts have interpreted to conclude that elements of informational privacy are supposed to be implemented. Despite this, constitutional recognition of Pakistan lacks comprehensive statutory guidance on how privacy rights apply to digital data, online platforms, and modern surveillance technologies, leaving significant gaps in the protection. So, although we do have some kind of a constitutional protection under privacy law in Pakistan, but again, we have the same recurring problem as you saw in the previous slides, that even with that, we still have a lot of problem in regards to privacy rights that apply to online platforms and modern surveillance technologies, which leaves a significant gap, in the protection of privacy rights for every individual in Pakistan. unfortunately. Um, Moving on, what is cybersecurity law? Um, cybersecurity law focuses on protecting digital systems, networks, and critical infrastructure from cyber attacks, unauthorized access, and data breaches. It emphasizes the preventive measures, system resilience, and legal accountability, where security failures expose individuals or institutions to harm. So, cybersecurity basically focuses on digital systems and how like cyber attacks are supposed to be monitored and have some kind of a regulation in terms of that there shouldn't be any unauthorized access and data breaches, as mentioned before. So, cybersecurity law is something that does cover a part of privacy law and data protection law, because it kind of looks over all the cyber crimes and cyber in terms of online and digital crimes that happen, in regards to data protection, in regards to financial online financial crimes. And so cybersecurity law basically covers that part, and it exposes the gaps and the harms that each individual or institution has, in regards to the accountability that they need to take for different cyber crimes, right? And in Pakistan, cybersecurity is increasingly relevant due to the digitization of financial systems. As I mentioned, we have a lot of fintech popularity in Pakistan, um, and digital wallets and systems and also government services and national infrastructure like NADRA. So cybersecurity law is very relevant in Pakistan and needs to be a very important highlight, especially given that our digital infrastructure is growing day by day and our economic and financial infrastructure is basically being digitized. So we need to have relevant and proper cybersecurity laws in place in for Pakistan. Moving on, how these legal areas intersect. So cybersecurity failures often result in data breaches, right? And which in turn leads to violations of privacy and personal rights. So similarly, weak data protection standards increase the impact of cyber incidents. So, as I mentioned before, cybersecurity law, data protection law, privacy law, they all intersect. Yes, these are different. As I mentioned before, these are different legal reforms, but they do intersect a lot and kind of come under the same umbrella. But they are different entities, because data is essential for everything in regards to digitization. And when any breach happens in any kind of data, it leads to privacy violations, which kind of comes under privacy law and personal rights, right? And weak data protection standards also lead to cyber incidents like cyber attacks over, for instance, our governmental institution of NADRA, which is like digitized, right? So a cyber attack would mean like, gaining access to all the data, to all the Pakistani citizens, and to all the data that's been stored in NADRA, right? So cyber attacks and cybersecurity comes under that, and also it also falls under the ambit of data protection law. Data protection, privacy, and cybersecurity laws, right? These three main domains are therefore interconnected components of a broader digital legal framework, and weaknesses in one area frequently undermines protection in the others. So, data protection, privacy, and cybersecurity laws, these three different areas of law, they need to be coherent in terms of having proper legal frameworks and proper regulation of these three different laws. And if either one of them is weakened, the whole digital framework becomes cracked. It becomes, I mean, you can see different scars and cracks in that legal in the whole digital area of law, because these three are super interconnected, and it's a very complex system, but it's very important to have thorough understanding of these three different, and they're not vastly super different from each other, but they are super interconnected at the same time because they work together. So yeah, so weakness of one system can lead to the weakness of other, and eventually lead to a very unstable digital system in any country, or especially Pakistan. Um, yeah. So moving on from that, that should be the day one key takeaways. I just wanted to be a bit more um, introductory for the first day, as to understand the basic frameworks of digital law, and in Pakistan as well. I could talk for hours and hours about this, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you have a broader understanding of it as well. But as a young lawyer myself, I'm still learning, because it's an ever learning field, and it's always changing every day, every hour, and it's very different in different jurisdictions. And digital law is like central to Pakistan's digital future and societal stability. While data protection, privacy, and cybersecurity are legally distant concepts, they are deeply interconnected in practice, right? And strengthening these frameworks is essential for protecting citizens and ensuring the institutional accountability and fostering trust in Pakistan's rapidly ever growing and evolving digital ecosystem. I'm pretty sure with my time in a lot of fintechs, and especially in Jazz Cash, and now that I'm working with another fintech, I realize the importance of the digital ecosystem. And it still baffles me because I'm still learning, right? And even with lawyers who have 50 to 40 years, like a lot of years of experience, I realize that digital laws are something that are still a foreign concept and an ever growing concept. For instance, I cannot blame the Pakistani market a lot, because even in the developed markets here, a lot of people don't understand what digital law is, the importance of digital law, and the amount of growth that it's going to take in the next 10 years. As lawyers, and especially as lawyer myself, I think it's super important to understand that this is going to be the next big thing in law, especially with artificial intelligence and AI taking over the world. You know, it's very important as young lawyers to understand that you have to be more focused about what's going to be the next big thing, and making sure that you have at least a basic understanding of it. If you, and I know it's very super frustrating when I was in Pakistan, that when I would talk to these big partners of big law firms like Heather Mota or Dignam and Co and like Villani, these partners in these firms, like they wouldn't understand a lot about digital law. And I remember I used to be like, that's going to be the next big thing. And the point is that in Pakistan, these digital laws are still ever growing. We still have a lot of acts and bills in the making. But digital laws are something that are going to be very essential in terms of the financial market as well, that's rapidly growing in Pakistan. I mean, we all know about, like, I was super impressed in understanding that when I would go to like a local vendor, they would use and have digital wallets for, like, for example, Jazz Cash or Easy Pesa, right? And that was something that really baffled me. And I was like, okay, that means we need to have proper regulations in place to understand how these digital wallets are working, because people who have no basic knowledge of anything, they still have a cell phone, they still have a smartphone, they are still using these digital wallets to make their day-to-day payments. And digital law is very central, especially to Pakistan's digital future and economy. Yeah, so I feel like that is something that is going to be very important. And I hopefully my presentation for day one was just to cover the basics so you understand the differences in digital law, privacy law, and cybersecurity law. That they're not the same concepts, they're a bit different, but they do come under the similar framework of digital laws. And yeah, hopefully from today we're going to go into cybersecurity and then, other frameworks on day three. But yeah, this was more of an beginner's idea and understanding of digital law. I mean, I did my best. Again, I am no I don't have 15 to 20 to 30 years of experience in this. Hopefully, I will. But this is an area of law that really excites me as a young lawyer. And I feel like people don't understand that it is going to be very prevalent in the market in Pakistan and all over the world. So, yeah, I think that just concludes my day one. And thank you so much. And let me know if you guys have any questions, and I will try my best to answer them. Eamon, if you are here.
Thank you so much, Ms. Duaa Najam. That was such an insightful session. And I would like to thank you on behalf of PNYLA Karachi Division. And we do have some questions in the chat.
Should I stop sharing my screen?
You can. That's perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm gonna open the meet. Okay.
Should I read out the questions?
Sure. Yeah. Let's do it. I'm gonna try my best, guys. So bear with me.
Okay. So first question is from Kazim Baloch, and he is curious that what are the points through which we can understand that we must not agree upon when giving consent regarding the apps and websites.
What's the point that we must not agree to give consent, right? So, as in, when should we stop or not give consent is, hopefully that is the gist of the question. I feel like, okay, so if you ask me personally, as a legal person, I would say that you should start by understanding that if any institution, any website, any any online entity is asking you for more than, which is kind of a basic information, I understand that, but if it's asking you for more than your name, then maybe you should kind of like sit and understand and think about, should I be giving consent to my, my date of birth, my nationality, my anything that's linked to your that you don't feel comfortable with, anything besides your name can be taken as private and personal information. So yeah, I would say anything besides your name, you can always say no, and you should be able to say no, and if you don't have that option, then I don't know if that entity is trustworthy enough. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Sometimes, Miss, there are cookies asking for the permission. Is there any particular clauses that we see and we should not give consent to that?
I understand that. So cookies are something that you should, I mean, it sounds so nice, I know. But like cookies is something that you should first read upon. I mean, I do that now because data is so important in today's day and age, right? I read upon all the clauses because every entity, every institution, every website has their own bylaws and their own set of different clauses in the cookies. I would say that if there are a few clauses that you should be well aware of and kind of mark as a red flag, would be that if the institution is asking for you to you to like say that yes, I consent to this institution or this particular website using my online activity as a kind of a gateway or a portal, or like selling it to another website. And a lot of websites, you will be surprised, do say that in their cookies and in their clauses. So maybe you should be well aware and red flag those kind of clauses that just ask for consent to use consent for like giving your personal data away. That like it literally like clearly says that. A lot of people don't read that, but it does. So maybe something that's more direct, you should really look over that one more time and make sure that it's not using a lot of your personal information. So yes, I would say those kind of clauses in the cookies. Sorry, go on.
Thank you so much for the answer, Miss. And the next question is from Anas Shamim. He is curious that how should the law balance protecting individual privacy online with the needs of businesses and governments to collect data?
How should the law? Sorry if I misheard the first part. Can you go over
Okay,
that?
so the question is that how should the law balance protecting individual privacy online with the needs of businesses and governments to collect data? Like maybe he is curious about some government policies and stuff regarding to data
Hmm.
privacy.
Hmm. Okay, that's a good question. I feel like, especially governments, like not just in Pakistan but all over the world here, even they don't really have strong laws in terms of data protection, except EU. EU does a very good job, by the way. If anybody wants to research more into that, I would say go into the data frameworks for EU. But yes, to answering your question, I would say that governments and governmental organizations should kind of focus more towards kind of the regulation, and maybe constructing more diligent laws and stringent laws in regards to the sharing of data. So hopefully I am understanding the question correctly, but the sharing and the usage of data without somebody's consent should be the number one priority of every government all around the world, and that it shouldn't be just shared without any individual's consent. So I feel like again, my huge emphasis is on consent, and I feel like consent is a huge part of this because a lot of the developed countries and developed jurisdictions, they have a huge emphasis on consent in their digital laws. So yes, hopefully to answer your question, what needs to be developed and ingrained more in the digital systems is the idea of consent and sharing your data and your private data with any institution and government. Also, one more thing that may be enshrined in any government in terms of digital law should also be the idea and the concept of tracking if you are, sorry, not tracking, that's the wrong word, but encrypting data. I'm pretty sure you all might have heard and know that WhatsApp is now encrypted. It did not used to be super encrypted before, which a lot of people did not know. But because of the legal rules and regulations, now it is in it's like safe. So if I'm chatting with somebody on like WhatsApp or any other digital platform, it is personal to me. Not everybody or any company or institution or even the government can look over it. So this so the so I think the second concept would be basically encryption, and the number one would be consent. These two things should be the backbone of any governmental digital laws that are to be implemented. But yeah, go on. Hopefully that answers your question if I understood it correctly.
Also, I want to add something into it that still the data privacy law is still pending in the parliament, and now the fingers are crossed, and we are looking forward that maybe one day we will have data privacy laws in Pakistan too. So for now, we are just the fingers are crossed. And moreover, there's one more question from the Mr. Baloch. And what
Yes.
are the cyber laws in Pakistan and courts in which the matters are dealt?
What are the cyber laws in Pakistan? And I'm
Yes,
sorry, and what was the second part?
and courts in which matters are dealt, like maybe tribunals or something.
Okay, so I would say the core cyber laws in Pakistan would be PECA, which is the Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act, which was incorporated in 2016. This is Pakistan's primary cybercrime statute. It basically like criminalizes the cyber terrorism, electronic fraud, identity theft, which is a huge part of it. We will cover cybercrime more in day two, guys, but still other problems like phishing and stuff, it comes under the Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act of 2016. Um, Further, we also have the Electronic Transactions Ordinance of 2002, ETO. That is another kind of a cyber law in Pakistan. The third kind, on the top of my head, I would say Pakistan's telecommunication, which is the Reorganization Act of 1996. This is kind of a cyber law because it kind of regulates telecom operators and ISPs and licensing and compliance requirements. Um, I would say fourth maybe would be the Investigation for Fair Trial Act of 2013. Um, it raises the privacy and due process concerns when applied to digital surveillance. And Pakistan Penal Code (PPC) also has, um, in parallel to digital and cyber laws, it does it has started to implement that as well. Um, in regards to data protection framework, the current status is that, as I mentioned, the Personal Data Protection Bill in 2018, it's still in the drafting stage. And then we also have, there's not much, honestly, to be very honest. These are the few things that I can think of the top of my head. The other part of the question was courts for cyber law, I believe, right?
Yes.
Of course, we have the Supreme Court and the High Court. They also deal with every kind of cyber issues as well, a lot of cyber issues. But Sessions Court, I believe, also deals with a less serious offenses for cyber laws. And high courts, again, they deal with the PECA, PECA provisions, the PTA content blocking orders, FIA investigations are also in high courts. But Sessions Courts kind of deals with a much lesser offense for cyber laws. And courts designated under the PECA 2016, which basically, says that the federal government basically designates the session courts to hear, or special courts for cyber crimes to hear, like for problems like linked to hacking, cyber fraud, identity theft, cyber terrorism, or even hate speech, by the way. So yes, we have courts, but again, not as differentiated as they are in other parts of the world. So yes, hopefully that answers your question.
Also, they have also introduced a institution named as NCCI, which is National Cyber Crimes Investigation.
Yes.
So now we do have that now.
Yes,
that too.
And that is actually, sorry, go on.
No, I was asking a second question, but you can completely continue that.
No, I'm just done. You go on, ask.
Okay, so I'll be taking one last question. and then we call it a session. So the question is from Allah Wasayo Khan, and and the question is: while we have the prevent PECA, our conviction rates for complex financial cyber crimes remain low compared to UK or US. Is this a failure of laws drafting, or is it a jurisdictional issue where our courts struggle to apply 19th century Evidences Act standards to 21st century digital footprints? How do we bridge the gap?
Okay, so I'm so sorry, can you just quickly repeat the first
Okay,
part
the
of the question?
question is related to the drafting issue and the execution of laws. He is basically saying that we have 19th century drafted legislation, and
Yeah.
the issue is related to 21st century. So how could we bridge that gap?
Okay, so first of all, I would say the quite obvious here is that if you see, legal rules and regulations are, especially now, becoming and having a common law country is the best part, I believe, is that you can always work on improving and coming up with new laws and regulations. And having drafted regulations and digital regulations from, of course, the 19th century, as this person has asked, I believe that you can bridge the gap by, of course, number one, having a proper council and a proper regulatory authority, and not just one, but it should, like, a federal like a federal authority that kind of looks over different different sub authorities, that looks over the different digital problems in, like, Pakistan, right? And you can bridge the gap, of course, by number one, having legal experts and digital experts. We need people to sit on these boards who are making these laws, who are making these digital laws, to have an understanding of the whole system, of the data, of understanding privacy and consent and cybersecurity and data laws. We need people with proper training, proper understanding, and proper backgrounds, who are sitting on these chairs, on the federal board, on these different boards of like PECA, and understanding that once you have a proper understanding of digital laws, only then you can implement them and make them. You know what I mean? And I just feel like it's so important that we need new people, new laws, people who have a worldly perspective. I feel like that's very important, because digital laws are not just in Pakistan, they are linked with all around the world. So we need people who have a worldly experience, worldly perspective, to sit on these boards, to sit on these lawmaking institutions, and then maybe make these legal rules for regulating the digital system in, like, especially like Pakistan. So yes, to bridge the gap, I think we need more specialized people. We need specialists in the legal digital age, people who have a good, thorough understanding of digital laws and the legal frameworks. So yes, that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Duaa Najam, for that incredibly informative and engaging first session covering the foundational differences between data protection and cybersecurity law. Really set the stage for the next 2 days, and we truly appreciate you sharing your global expertise with us. I would like to thank all the participants for their active involvement and insightful questions. As a reminder to everyone, please ensure you have marked your attendance by writing your full name in the chat box before you leave this meeting. Just a note that this link will only be active for the next few moments. Also, remember that you must attend all 3 days to receive your e-certificate. We look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow at the same time for 2 days, and where we will be, we will dive deeper into cybersecurity law and crime control. Thank you for joining us today, and have a wonderful evening, everyone. Also, PNYLA Karachi division wishes everyone a happy Safer Internet Day. And this Safer Internet Day, let's promise that we will uphold ethics, respect, and responsibility in our use of social media and digital world. Thank you so much, everyone,
Thank
for
you.
joining us
Thank you
today.
so much, guys. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.